Hi, I'm Sarah. Last night, Kyle was evicted from Big Brother 24 and has entered the jury. And I have my exit interview with him. Just a reminder, I no longer get to speak directly to the evicted house guests once they enter the jury phase. I submit my questions in writing, and PR asks the questions, sends me their answers. My first question for Kyle was about his showmance. We saw Kyle really struggle with getting into a showmance with Alyssa. They obviously liked each other. They were very flirty, but he kept pushing her away, saying a showmance is bad for his game. And yet, you can definitely be targeted for being in a showmance, absolutely. But just a few seasons ago, very recent, we saw a showmance make it to the final two together. Not to mention, there are other examples of showmances doing well. But ultimately, my theory is that Kyle hasn't watched much Big Brother. I think he's only seen parts of last season, just enough to know there was a cookout and just enough to know that Christian was targeted pre-jury, in part because of being in a showmance. So I kind of wanted him to admit this. My question was, just a few seasons ago, a showmance made it all the way to the final two together. What made you hesitant at first to get into one?
I knew a showmance was going to put a unnecessary target on my back and the person that I was in a showmance with. And coming into the game, I wanted to play a very selfish game, which I think I did. But towards the end of the game, my relationship with Alyssa was priority number one, and she's amazing, so I couldn't help myself.
Okay, so he doesn't really acknowledge that a showmance could have helped his game. I don't even know if he heard that part of the question, but he does mention playing a selfish game, and I think that that's accurate. He was very good at blowing up all of his alliances and keeping Alyssa at a distance, which I feel like maybe could have helped, which brings me to my next question. Did he ever consider or try to bring Alyssa into the leftovers?
I was open to it already. The leftovers had 7 alliance members, so that was big in and of itself. It crossed my mind, but I wasn't sure how I would go about doing that.
Now, remember, all of these questions are submitted and have to be approved by PR. In the past, they have omitted my questions. So I was very specific with how I wanted to address his fears of the people of color working together. And throughout these last few weeks of him talking about it on the feeds, I was really confused on how he connected some of the house guests who were people of color, most specifically Indy, Jasmine, and Taylor. I just was like, how are you pitching that they're working together? So my question to him was there a moment that made you believe Indy, Jasmine, and Taylor were working together?
So about the mid game around week 5, I made some generalized assumptions that were totally false and had no grounds in the game of Big Brother, which I deeply regret. And moving forward after the game, I'm excited to find resources that can help me move through these situations.
Okay, I'll take that as a no. Um, that felt that feels like a fairly canned answer that I'm assuming he gave to all the other outlets as well. Now, putting whatever motives he had aside, during Direfest, he actively turned on his allies. He turned on Joseph very blatantly, but he also turned on Monty and Michael back inside the house, who Michael he had been working very, very closely with. And Kyle seemed completely okay with giving out game information several times in the season, we saw him sort of throw people under the bus, give out game information to benefit his game. That was kind of his strategy, the way that he worked. So during Direfest, he gave out a bunch of information of leftovers, and he lumped Michael, Brittany, Taylor, and Monty together, the inside group, to benefit his own game. But as we saw, Michael had some ammo that he was able to throw back at Kyle. So I ultimately wanted to know if Kyle had ever considered that what he was doing, throwing people under the bus, could have been done by his allies to him, which is what happened. So the question is, you had worked closely with Michael for most of the game, but turned against him during Direfest. Were you worried Michael would come after you for this?
Michael is a very strategic player. He is so thoughtful. I wasn't sure if he would come after me, but I knew Direfest and Brochella were going to create divides in the house. And that's why I felt comfortable with the after party going back into the house with Terrence, Alyssa, and Turner.
I don't know, buddy. I kind of feel like you created the divide, but it's hard to say if there would have been a divide otherwise had Kyle not spilled all of leftovers. I'm not sure. Inside Brochella definitely grew tight, but I don't know if there would have been that divide. Last question. I wanted to know who Kyle wanted to sit next to in the final two, and did he think he could beat them?
I'll be honest, I wanted to sit next to Alyssa. I thought that would have been an amazing experience. I don't know if I could beat her. Probably not, to be honest. But I think that would have been really cool if we had made it to the end.
I mean, I would have put money on them being the final two. I really thought that is where we were headed. And it could have happened, but Kyle was messy and other things got messy. I also wanted to ask about the first to enter curse, but I only get 5 questions. And so I feel like the other questions were more important. But Kyle was the first to enter this season. And so once again, the first to enter does not win. I don't think Tamar counts. I think celebrity season is a different thing. So I still stand by the curse. But again, I don't think Kyle knows much about Big Brother. And so I don't think he knew about the curse, but I kind of wanted to tell him about it. But, it wasn't that important to put in my 5 questions. Now, I kind of felt like Kyle didn't really answer these questions. He does have a long press day, and I think he got his little canned responses going. So I'm a little disappointed about these answers, but I want to know what you think. How did you feel about Kyle's answers? And what do you think if he had made it to final 2 with Alyssa? I kind of feel like he would win. I think he was just being polite because he does care about Alyssa, but I think he would win hands down. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know how you're feeling about this season, and I'll see you next week.